You know exactly what you need to do. You've known for weeks, maybe months, but every time you sit down to start, something stops you. A strange heaviness, a pull towards your phone, a sudden urge to do literally anything else. And then the thought comes, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just start? Here's what most people get completely wrong about this. They call it laziness. They blame their character. They tell themselves they're not disciplined enough, not motivated enough, not built for this. And that story quietly destroys more potential than almost anything else. Because what you're experiencing is not laziness, it's a brain state, and brain states can be changed. In this video, we're going to talk about why your brain resists starting, what's actually happening neurologically when you feel stuck, and how to reset your system so action becomes easier. Not through willpower, not through motivational hype, through understanding how your brain actually works. Because once you understand what's really happening, the whole thing stops feeling like a character flaw and starts feeling like a solvable problem. Most people think motivation comes first. You feel motivated, then you act. But neuroscience shows it works the other way. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Your brain has a region called the basal ganglia. It's heavily involved in habit formation, routine behavior, and initiating movement. When you've spent weeks avoiding a task, your brain has no established pathway for starting it. There's no groove, no automatic signal, no momentum. Starting from zero requires your prefrontal cortex to override discomfort, calculate reward, and push against inertia simultaneously. That is genuinely hard work for your brain. It's not weakness, it's neurological friction. And modern life makes this worse. Constant stimulation from your phone, short form content, and instant entertainment has trained your brain to expect high reward with zero effort. So, when a real task appears, something that requires sustained attention and delayed reward, your brain compares it to the instant dopamine it could get elsewhere. And the task loses every time. Not because you're lazy, because your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do. That's the part most people never hear. Your avoidance is not a personality trait, it's a conditioned response. Here's something that might surprise you. True laziness, the kind where someone genuinely doesn't care, feels no tension, experiences no guilt, is actually rare. Most people who call themselves lazy feel the opposite of indifference. They feel stuck. They feel frustrated. They think about the task constantly. They carry low-level guilt all day. That's not laziness. That's a nervous system under pressure. Psychologists call this task aversion. Your brain has linked a specific task to discomfort, maybe past failure, maybe fear of judgment, maybe overwhelming complexity. Whatever the source, your brain now treats that task like a mild threat. And when your brain senses a threat, it does what it always does. It avoids. This is why the harder you try to force yourself to start, the worse it sometimes feels. Pressure increases threat perception, and increased threat perception increases avoidance. You end up in a loop, not because you lack discipline, because you're fighting your brain's protective system with willpower alone. That battle rarely ends well. Here's the shift that changes everything. Stop trying to feel motivated before you start. Motivation is a result of action, not a requirement for it. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most common ways people accidentally train avoidance. Every time you wait for the right feeling before beginning, you teach your brain that starting requires a special emotional state, and that state almost never arrives on schedule. The solution is not to find more motivation. The solution is to lower the cost of starting. Your brain resists large, undefined tasks. It doesn't resist tiny, specific ones. This is not a productivity trick. This is how your brain's threat assessment system works. A task that feels massive and unclear triggers anxiety. A task that feels small and specific does not. So instead of telling yourself to work on the project, tell yourself to open the document. Instead of exercise for 45 minutes, tell yourself to put on your shoes. Instead of write the whole thing, tell yourself to write one sentence. That's not avoidance. That's working with your neurology instead of against it. The moment you start, something shifts. Your brain receives a small reward signal for initiating. Momentum begins forming. the prefrontal cortex engages, and often the resistance that felt overwhelming before starting almost disappears within minutes of beginning. This is called the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain actually becomes more engaged with tasks once they're in progress than before they start. Starting is the hardest part, not continuing. Starting. Your brain doesn't make decisions in isolation. It reads cues from the environment constantly and adjusts behavior accordingly. If your workspace contains your phone, your brain stays partially alert to social stimulation even when you're trying to focus. If your desk is surrounded by visual clutter, your brain expends energy processing irrelevant information. If your routine contains no clear signal for deep work, your brain never fully shifts into that mode. Environment shapes behavior more than most people realize. Not because people are weak, because that's how neural conditioning works. Your brain links spaces, objects, and routines to specific behaviors. Your bed becomes associated with sleep or scrolling. Your couch becomes associated with rest or entertainment. Your desk should become associated with focus. But if you do everything from the same spot, work, watch, scroll, eat, your brain never builds a clear behavioral association with any of it. One of the most practical things you can do is create a start ritual, a short, consistent sequence of actions you do before beginning important work. Same time, same location, same small actions. Over time, your brain learns that this sequence means it's time to focus. The ritual becomes the trigger, and triggers reduce the mental cost of starting significantly. There's one more layer most people miss, and it's probably the most important one. If you've been telling yourself you're lazy for a long time, your brain starts treating that as identity, and people behave consistently with who they believe they are. If you believe you're someone who can't follow through, your brain will find ways to confirm that belief. Every avoided task becomes evidence. Every slow start becomes proof. The story feeds itself. This is not motivation speech territory. This is how cognitive identity works. Your brain filters experience through existing beliefs. A person who sees themselves as disciplined interprets struggle differently than a person who sees themselves as lazy. Same external challenge, completely different internal response. Changing the label changes the lens, not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually. The way you talk to yourself about starting shapes what starting feels like. Instead of "I can't start," try "My brain needs a smaller entry point." Instead of "I'm so lazy," try "I've been overstimulated and my brain needs a reset." These aren't affirmations. They're accurate descriptions of what's actually happening neurologically. And accuracy beats shame every time when it comes to building real behavioral change. None of this matters unless it becomes practical. So here's what the research and these principles actually look like in daily life. First, stop waiting for motivation. Pick the smallest possible version of the task and do only that, not the whole thing, just the first move. Shoes on, document open, one sentence written. Let momentum build from there. Second, reduce environmental friction. Put your phone in another room before you start. Clear the space you work in. Create a simple start ritual that signals to your brain that focus time is beginning. 3 minutes of consistency repeated daily builds stronger neural associations than one perfect session weekly. Third, change how you talk about the problem. You're not lazy, your brain is overstimulated, underrested, or associating the task with threat. Those are all solvable. Laziness feels permanent. Brain states are temporary. Fourth, protect your mornings from high stimulation. When you flood your brain with dopamine early, everything else feels harder for hours afterward. Give your brain time to stabilize before reaching for your phone. Even 20 minutes of low stimulation in the morning changes how your brain handles resistance for the rest of the day. And fifth, when you do start, notice it, not with dramatic celebration, just a quiet internal acknowledgement. I started. That small recognition reinforces the behavior. Your brain begins to associate starting with a positive signal. Over time, the resistance shrinks. These habits do not require a personality transplant. They don't require you to become someone else. They require you to understand what's actually happening in your brain and work with it instead of against it. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not behind in some permanent way. Your brain learns certain patterns in response to a very overstimulating world, and the same neuroplasticity that created those patterns can rebuild better ones gradually, repeatedly, one small start at a time. The question isn't whether you're capable. The question is whether you're willing to start small enough to let momentum do the rest. If this video helped you see the problem differently, leave a like so more people can find it. And if you want more practical, honest content on self-discipline, brain training, and building a life that actually works, subscribe to One Step Simpler.